Honored to start this first inaugural meeting of thematic working group on innovation and technology for sustainable development for special countries with economics for Central Asia. My name is Aida Karajanova. I'm the moderator of the opening session 1 of our digital conference. Before we proceed, let me please make a few housekeeping announcements. Our webinar session today is delivered in preparations to the Committee on ICT and Science, Technology and Innovations, and it is unusual gathering over Kudo, and it's a very good learning experience in managing bilingual meeting with interpretation. We have 2.5 hours of uninterrupted consultations, and we will complete at about 4:30 in Bangkok and 3:30 in Almaty time. All cameras and mics need to be kept off until speaking time. All PowerPoint presentations will be operated from the Conference Management Center in Bangkok. Please make sure that your textual intervention is sharp and to the point with duration of 2 minutes, and keep the screen of your computer half open for the document and the other half to observe the meeting. If you have questions, please post them in a chat. My job will be to collect your questions and direct them to the panelist and the moderator. Our interpreters will alternate every 20 minutes. In this regard, please make sure you switch the languages and follow Kuda instructions. Please pick up the materials at the event page in convenient to your language, English and Russian. And please make sure you can switch between languages both in Kuda platform and in YouTube streaming. I also have a disclaimer announcement following to support interpreters. The remote simultaneous interpretation of the proceedings is provided by the United Nations for the purpose of facilitating communication in light of the fact that there are 6 official languages of the United Nations. Participants are requested to be mindful of the additional difficulties experienced by interpreters when working in remote mode, and of the increased likelihood of disruptions to the audio feed of the interpreters. Only the speech or intervention in the original language is authentic and constitutes an authentic record of the proceedings. In case of any inconsistency between the interpretation and the speech or intervention in the original language, the latter shall prevail. Interpreters servicing remote meeting cannot be held liable for interruption of service, pixelation, freezing or loss of the virtual input, partial or incomplete loss of audio, audible artifacts, unauthorized access to personal and confidential data, leaking of information due to inadequate soundproofing and or data loss. Thank you. Let me now please announce the opening session and inform you on our distinguished panel. Ms. Tiziana Bonapace, ICT and Disaster Risk Reduction Division Director of ESCAP, will welcome the session. This will be followed by Ms. Elizabeth Turk, Director of Economic Cooperation and Trade Division of Economic Commission of Europe. We also have an honor to welcome the chairman and allow him to give a welcome statement, Mr. Ablayhan Ospanov, Vice Minister of Digital Development, Innovation and Aerospace Industry of Kazakhstan. He is also chair of the Working Group on Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Development. Our chair has 2 co-chairs, Mr. Ilyas Ospanov, Director of Center of Engineering and Technology Transfer under the Ministry of DDIAI, and also Meirbek Mukatov, who is Deputy Director of the Department of Innovation under the same ministry. So thank you very much. Over to you, Tiziana.
Thank you very much, Aida. Excellency Ablay Khan Osmanov, Vice Minister from Kazakhstan and our chair for the working group, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome and thank you to everyone who joined us today. I express appreciation in particular to our SPECA country representatives, our experts, partners, and our colleagues from our sister regional commission, UNECE, who is co-organizing this event with ESCAP. The Working Group on Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Development is one of 6 subsidiary bodies of the Governing Council of the UN Special Programme for the Economies of Central Asia, also known as SPECA. The Governing Council oversees the work of the SPECA thematic working groups. It takes stock of progress achieved. It identifies priorities for the future work plan of SPECA, with ESCAP and ECE providing joint support as the secretariats. The working group comprises senior policymakers, researchers, decision makers, and implementers from the SPECA countries. The working group, with its new focus on innovation and technology, is meeting today for the first time. It used to meet with a focus on knowledge-based development. However, following a comprehensive evaluation of SPECA conducted in 2017, the group's work was refocused. And I think we can all agree that this refocusing was timely and far-sighted. The pandemic has shifted the world to digital even faster than before, as digital connectivity has proven its ability to act as a lifeline, allowing for physically distanced but real-time human interactions, as we are doing at this very moment. And as we look to the future, we can expect that multiple crises, especially given that climate-related extreme events are on the rise. So we can expect that multiple crises will converge, and we need to prepare today by building more resilient infrastructure. We need digital networks that can absorb sudden surges in internet demand and withstand destructive disasters. However, 52% of the population living in Asia Pacific still remains unconnected. And among those that are connected, we estimate that a third remains underconnected. Another worrisome fact is that only around 44% of households in developing countries have internet access from home. So during the lockdowns, many millions lost their internet access. And while in the SPECA region, in the SPECA countries, the percentage is higher, it's at 70% on average. This masks significant differences that range from Afghanistan, where only 5.7% of households have internet access, to 84.5% in Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan represents the high end of the spectrum. So bridging the digital divide through the development of seamless digital connectivity for e-resilience has been a priority among our member states for a number of years. In 2017, member countries launched the Asia-Pacific Information Superhighway Initiative. And this initiative has 4 interrelated and vital components. One is physical infrastructure, along with more efficient internet traffic management. Thirdly, e-resilience. And fourth, achieving broadband for all. These components form the enabling broadband ecosystem, and this helps member countries to narrow the digital divide and expand digital opportunities for all. And under an ongoing project on promoting regional economic cooperation and integration across transport, ICT, and energy infrastructures, we have organized a perception-based survey on e-resilience readiness in 3 pilot countries of the project, namely Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Mongolia. And later, during the course of our deliberations today, we shall be sharing with you some of the interesting findings that have emerged from this survey. So, Excellencies, distinguished participants, notwithstanding the challenge of achieving the SDGs, to which all member states of the UN have committed themselves, including the SPECA countries, innovation can and should be a key driver for implementing this ambitious agenda. Innovation covers not only technological changes, but also changes in organizational, labor, and social practices. And as such, it has a potential impact on transformation to sustainable development in the SPECA countries. And I am also pleased to inform you that the consolidated outcome of your deliberations today, under the very able guidance provided by our chair, will be presented at the SPECA Governing Council, which is tentatively scheduled for 20 November 2020. And we are looking forward to hearing from you on the future priorities. And we look forward to your continued support. And in this regard, I request you to kindly note that the 3rd session of the Committee on ICT STI will be held on 19 and 20 August. And so this meeting we are having today is being held in preparation for the committee meeting later in August as well. So once again, very special thanks to all of you. I wish you all productive discussions, and I will be returning to you towards the end of the session with concluding remarks. Thank you. And I now hand it over to the director from ECE, Elizabeth Turk.
Thank you very much, Tiziana. Good morning and welcome. Your Excellency, Mr. Blachan Osvanov, Ms. Tiziana Ponapace, Mr. Nikolai Pomoshnikov. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the participants, delegates of the SPECA member countries, experts, ESCAP colleagues, and other partners. And I would like to thank the ESCAP team for their excellent support in organizing this meeting, also on the IT side. I'm very pleased to participate in this opening segment of this first SPECA working group on innovation and technology for sustainable development. This working group serves as a platform for sharing experiences and knowledge. It allows to discuss the challenges and opportunities that the SPECA countries face in the area of science, technology, and innovation, and in their common efforts to achieve sustainable development in line with the 2030 agenda. As you all know, and we just heard, the SPECA Working Group on Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Development will build on the work of the previous SPECA Working Group on Knowledge-Based Development. In this context, I would like to stress the long-standing cooperation ECE had with SPECA countries. We have cooperated, amongst others, through the Innovation for Sustainable Development reviews. These are reviews undertaken by Kazakhstan in 2012, Tajikistan 2015, and Kyrgyzstan 2019. In this context, I'd also like to commend the interest of the government of Uzbekistan to undertake the Innovation for Sustainable Development review. And I would also like to thank the generous contribution of partners, in particular the Russian Federation, to support Uzbekistan in its endeavor. As we are here today, I would like to flag two of the many decisions taken by the SPECA Governing Council during its 14th session in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, in November 2019. First, the adoption of the SPECA Innovation Strategy for Sustainable Development 2030, and second, the updated TORs of the working group. Let me say a few words about the SPECA Innovation Strategy for Sustainable Development. The aim of the strategy is twofold. First, it aims to support member countries in achieving a sustained improvement in their national capacities and capabilities to formulate and implement innovation policies for sustainable development. And second, it aims to raise the level and quality of regional cooperation in the implementation of innovations that target and that support sustainable development. I'm pleased to inform you that the ECE and ESCAP Secretariat support SPECA member countries in pursuing the implementation of this strategy. We do so in the implementation of the United Nations Development Account Project. The project is called Strengthening Innovation Policies for SPECA countries in support of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And this project will run until 2023. In this context, I would be delighted to give you a detailed update on the recent developments and steps undertaken in the project. But for timing reasons in this opening segment, let me just flag key milestones. Most importantly here is the launch of the Science, Technology and Innovation Gap Analysis in each of the SPECA member countries. The country-specific gap analysis, they are carried out by national experts based on a dedicated methodology. The country-specific analysis, they will feed into a gap analysis report for the whole SPECA region, and the final results of which are to be presented and discussed at the SPECA dedicated workshop, at the moment scheduled, as we heard before, for November 2020 in a virtual format. I very much look forward to the final results of these assessments, and I would like to encourage the SPECA member countries to actively participate in the workshop on the STI gap assessment. That's really crucial for validating the findings and for subsequently elaborating the action plan. I also encourage you to complete the online survey. With this call for action, let me close by wishing you all fruitful deliberations. I thank you again, particularly our colleagues in the ESCAP Secretariat, for the excellent cooperation, and I very much look forward to future projects and to the intensification of our cooperation. Many thanks for your attention, and I now hand over to our next speaker, Your Excellency, Mr. Ablakan Osbanov. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If everything is working, I will try to speak in Russian for another countries. So, уважаемые организаторы и участники рабочей группы,
Distinguished members and organizers of the working group, I would like to welcome all the participants of the working group for innovation and sustainable development. And I want to specifically thank the organizers, the secretariats of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe and UN ESCAP for their efforts, dedicated efforts to contribute their activities to establish such an important platform, which is an excellent opportunity to share the most updated experiences in the area of innovation, scientific innovations development, and the ICT. In my presentation, I have to also mention the impact which, of course, every country participants experiencing, i.e., the COVID-19 pandemic. In this regard, we see the benefits of digital innovation technologies within the several months. The situation in the world has changed dramatically. Most of the countries are now focused on online development, and hence digitalization is a priority for most of the world states. Broadband internet is a definite priority for Kazakhstan in order to establish proper connectivity for the even most remote areas in the republic. And that is why digital technologies, of course, is an excellent opportunity to establish universal access to the internet, which is a very good impetus for developing digital technologies in all areas, including education and public health, in order to protect ourselves against the pandemic. We need to join our forces collectively. As Antonio Guterres, UN General Secretary, mentioned, COVID-19 is not only divert our attention from digitalization, but on the contrary, focused and put on the limelight the most important challenges for us in this regard. In order to become resilient in the face of the COVID-19 consequences, we need to establish remote access to all those who are required in this access, and the UN member countries responded to this request by the UN General Secretary. In particular, more than 50 Kazakh digital companies expressed their readiness to help. And within this period, all state more than of state services are now digitalized, and more than 20 million services have been provided so far. More than 80% of our civil servants are working remotely from their households, and that is one of the biggest achievement of our digital progress. And specifically, I want to thank the United Nations for your recent report on the assessment of electronic government development worldwide. And I think here we could find very important updates for us as well. Since September, uh, starting with September, we will stick to a remote education mode as many other countries in the world, and that requires additional level of readiness for our digital technologies. Kazakhstan, the specific attention on behalf of the top governmental management is given to digitalization. In December, we've got launched a new program that is a roadmap to digitalization. And currently we're focusing on new approaches for when the framework of this roadmap. I should also say that in Kazakhstan, we're focusing on international cooperation in the area of innovation and digitalization, including high-tech startups in information technologies. In this regard, we established the Astana Hub, which is a techno hub for high-tech startups, which it is open, an open platform, and that is why we welcome all international participants and investors to help us and to develop their own businesses in Kazakhstan. Big opportunities also opens up in terms of system analysis and control. This is extremely relevant under the pandemic conditions, and in this regard we'll see big opportunities in the area of international cooperation, whilst we will be focusing on international SPECA programs and projects. And in this regard, I think this working group is extremely relevant, and as far as this is a very important platform to exchange better solutions for our countries, and this will also boost our opportunities in this area. And I would like to call up to all the members to communicate successfully through this working group and through this platform in order to exchange best practices in this area. At the end, I want to wish to all of you very successful deliberation. Only together we could reach success for the sake of further sustainable development of our nations. I thank you for your attention. Many thanks, Mr. Ablaham Ospanov, Vice Minister of Digital Innovations and Aerospace Technologies Ministry. We are slightly lagging behind the schedule, and in order to be punctual, I would like to shorten my announcements, and I would like also to pay attention to all the speakers that before you will start to speak, you need to click on request to speak, and after your presentation is finished, please release the mic button. Also, you could choose the languages between English and Russian with interpretation. We have also many presentations bilingual, both in Russian and in English are available, so pick up the one which you need. I also would like to present Nikolai Pomoshnikov, who is the head of Sonkar office, and I would like to give the floor to Mr. Nikolai, please.
Aida. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear participants. I am happy to be today with you and to start moderation of our second session. The theme of our session is synergies and transformations for the innovation system. This is, as you are aware, a first meeting today, and the exchanges today are very important, and our recommendations will be reported to the committee of ESCAPE on ICT and STI, as mentioned by Tiziana in her opening remarks. It will be on 19-20 August this year. And it will also be reporting to SPECA, Governing Council and Economic Forum, scheduled for 18-20 November and chaired by Kyrgyzstan. And now I would like to request ESCAPE IDD to deliver the keynote presentation on digital connectivity and e-resilience as a foundation infrastructure perspectives during COVID-19. Aida, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, dear moderator. I have shared all the slides on the event page, and let me just make a little overview for you so you can analyze it later on if there will be some space. I will speak in Russian to ease our perceptions and to speed up the meeting flow. Цифровая связь и электронная устойчивость как фундамент инфраструктуры
and digital connectivity and e-resilience as a foundation for infrastructure is quite a serious topic, and this is a priority of many organizations. And so we would like to just view it how we can recover from the pandemic. We know that in the general plan of Asian Pacific Initiative for a super highway, well, there are 4 components. So the first one is connectivity, and we analyzed the status of the connectivity in SPECA countries, and there are several findings here. So joint deployment of optic fiber cable systems in line with transport and energy infrastructure is an efficient and economic means for creating a universal space for information exchange and connectivity. So we underline necessity to invest into infrastructure. So this is quite a topical in counteracting COVID and in other issues. So we just consider infrastructure as a basis for all technologies. Unless investments are made into the next generation of networks, ultra high-speed broadband, so application of these technologies will never reach its true potential. The next component is the traffic and network management. We are facing quite a sound achievement, in South Asian region and Pacific countries, with the concern that the digital divide is increasing. So experts suggest that investments should be intensified into all areas, together with the broadband access, its affordability and quality. So we have to think about a national, regional, and a country level, and how information and technologies could help in various areas, including rural areas, specifically in decision making, because quite often just happens that it's a restriction for our development. The next topic is e-resilience. I will come back to it, get back to it after I speak about I will highlight the total issues of broadband connection. We show several data for several countries at the chart, and as you can see, so we have quite good achievements, but in this regard, UNESCAP suggests a specific model, which I will just highlight on the next slides. Joint deployment of infrastructure jointly with ICT, energy and transport. And it's quite topical in this regard to consider this component, which is e-resilience. So take into consideration e-resilience and at all stages of counteracting COVID and natural disasters requires interaction in coordination in different sectors and sound policy in budgeting. So of course, the demand is growing for broadband, demand growing, specifically taking into consideration our lockdown, and which just place severe pressure on network capacity. We suggest now we are thinking now what instruments, what tools are needed to analyze the resilience index and how it would help governments to improve management work within the digital space and in digital systems in order to counteract future crises and cope with it. So I just placed the deliberations social survey that Ms. Tiziana Banapaci mentioned. We analyzed opinion of experts from 3 countries, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, and the range of their responses from like 1 to 10 was preparedness for e-resilience and infrastructure development. From 1 to 9, we were thinking how e-resilience of infrastructure of the mere mere network impacts decision-making, social skills, and the last several questions relate to policy and joint organization or facilitation of work. The next several slides, I would not just speak much about this. We just provided overview of ICT indices for SPECA countries as a toolkit which could be used to assess e-resilience readiness. And this chart of e-government development index, which was mentioned by Mr. Vice Minister Ospanov, you can see our like alternate success, and the indices are just shown on the next slide. We can see the telecommunication infrastructure index, online service index, as well as human capital index. And besides, this toolkit of indexes is quite expanded, so I just quite broad. I just provided one chart for households with internet access from home in 2018 in SPECA countries. What does all this information mean? What can we do right now in this particular situation? UNESCAP suggests a platform, proposes a platform, and as well as our analytical services. So we can just create a framework of cooperation for pandemic management perspective. So we prepared a toolkit which comprises certain list of measures to be taken in order to shrink risks, to reduce risks, to prevent risks, adaptation and the recovery process. We conducted a number of trainings, and now we're thinking about two serious components. What tools are available, or components? Is it mere e-resilience or readiness for e-resilience? So the materials and can be just found in the documents within the framework of the projects that we are developing and implementing jointly in Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, where we are thinking how we can jointly deploy energy, transport, and ICT infrastructure, take into consideration disaster risk reduction and the financial resources available to fund the working plan. Within the framework, oh, it's not audible. Within the framework,
о котором я говорю, они рассматривают исследования по секторам, как я уже обозначила ранее, а также мы смотрим на институциональный потенциал и интегрированный
final potential and integrated approach. If you look at our website, we reported on several analytical papers, and through visualization and the necessity to interact with certain structures, the experts came to a conclusion and asked SCADA, by the way, UNESCAP, by the way, back on the 3rd of July, to develop a joint platform with the automation modules in order to identify adaptability, economic efficiency, and defining infrastructure projects fits for ICT deployment based on example of intellectual corridors. In addition, the experts were interested in whether it is needed to analyze e-resilience from the point of view of pandemic management and to support the work of digital transformation in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Mongolia. Thus, let me thank you for your attention, and please pay attention to the fact that our materials are published on our website. I would like to take the opportunity and to ask SPECA member countries to get registered for participation in the committee, and just communicate the wishes how to just develop here or in the region. So
I accept Chris Adney. Dear Chris, please take the floor. You need to request to speak and release the mic and
Yes.
convert. Yeah.
Sorry. Apologies. Sorry. Yes. So, yeah, just to welcome all participants. Thank you for your time to attend this this virtual inaugural session of the Working Group on Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Development. And thank you also to my colleague Aida Karajanova for all of this work preparing and that excellent presentation we've just had on the resilience of infrastructure and preparedness. You know, the ICT and disaster risk reduction section of SCAP have been doing excellent work on this for many years now, and more relevant than ever before. ECE would like to welcome the commitment of the SPECA countries to transform their national innovation systems to support sustainable development, and also Kazakhstan for chairing this this first session of the working group. We can see the evidence of the commitment to of the SPECA countries via the program of UNEC Innovation for Sustainable Development reviews. We also had a request from the SPECA Governing Council in December 2017 to develop a SPECA innovation strategy for sustainable development. This was developed by the SPECA Working Group on Knowledge-Based Development, which has now been renamed to SPECA Working Group on Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Development, and it was adopted in November last year by the SPECA Governing Council in Ashgabat, along with the updated terms of reference for this working group and the name change to reflect a new focus on delivering Agenda 2030. It's really looking for innovative approaches to deliver sustainable development, so we wanted to make that clearer. Obviously, we'd like to thank SCAP colleagues for the long-standing cooperation from both ICT and disaster risk reduction section, and also with the technology and innovation section of SCAP, who we've also been working with on this strategy. After the work to develop the strategy for adoption, it's now time to move forward with implementation. I'll just prepared one slide. We have this UN Development Account project to support initial stages of implementation. So we had agreement on the objectives, but obviously the implementation is very important and can be the toughest part. We're starting with an STI gap analysis, science, technology and innovation gap analysis in each SPECA country. That is currently ongoing with an expert in each SPECA country. We plan to have a regional workshop, provisionally planned for November 2020, to present the outcomes of the STI gap analysis and identify priority areas for cooperation between SPECA countries. Will include circular economy dimensions and the impact of COVID-19, but as part of the survey, there's an online survey which you're being invited to complete as part of this session. We would kindly invite you to identify any other priority areas for cooperation between the SPECA countries. I'd like to thank once again all the participants today, and I will pass the floor to our colleagues from the Technology and Innovation section. I believe Mr. Mikhail Podolsky, who we've been working with actively in this endeavor. And after that, we will have Mr. Rumen Dobrinsky, who is the lead international consultant working on the SPECA innovation strategy for sustainable development. Thank you very much, and wishing everybody a successful session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris, for your interesting presentation. And I would like to give the floor to your colleague, to Michael, please.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Trade, Investment and Innovation Division of ESCAP, let me start by thanking member states for a commitment to develop the SPECA innovation strategy for sustainable development, and thanks to EC for a productive collaboration on this endeavor. I would like to take this opportunity to make member states aware that the third UNESCAP Committee on ICT and STI will take place from the 19th to the 20th of August. The meeting will take place in a virtual format due to the ongoing COVID-19 situation, but representation in person will be allowed from Bangkok-based embassies. The committee will cover a range of topics, including harnessing technology for pandemics, bridging the digital divide, scaling up the use of space applications to deliver on the SDGs, and relevant to the SPECA innovation strategy. A session will be dedicated to inclusive STI policies for sustainable development. The committee will be an opportunity for member states to share the national experiences on ICT and STI and put forward ideas as to how the region can move forward together on these agendas during the decade of action for the SDGs. I thank member states who have already registered their delegations for the committee. For those member states that have not, we will follow up with you after this meeting, as we would very much welcome your active participation in the committee. I will now hand over to Mr. Rumer Dobrinski, lead consultant for the project, to give a presentation. Thank you.
Please go ahead, Roman.
Good afternoon, Asia, and good morning, Geneva. My name is Roman Dobrinsky. I act as the consultant of the ECE for the SPECA Innovation Strategy for Sustainable Development. My presentation is about an ongoing effort by the SPECA countries to develop and implement a SPECA innovation strategy for sustainable development. And there is a bunch of documents describing this effort, so I shall only go very briefly to the steps that have been undertaken so far and the tasks that are still ahead. All these documents are available on the web page of the webinar, so I would like to invite all of you who have not yet read them to take a closer look. So the SPECA countries have always proclaimed their resolve to attain the goals and targets of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and they assign high priority to these efforts. So these topics have been discussed at many SPECA high-level meetings, including the SPECA Economic Forum in 2017 and 19, and the Governmental Council in 2017, 18, and 19. So in 2017, the Governing Council encouraged the member states to develop a SPECA innovation strategy for sustainable development. The intergovernmental consultations on this issue were conducted under the auspices and framework of the SPECA Working Group of Knowledge-Based Development. Now it is the Working Group on Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Development. And in 2019, the draft of this strategy was presented to the Governing Council, which discussed it and approved the strategy and encouraged all SPECA countries and partners to support its implementation. So also in 2019, the United Nations Development Account approved the project Strengthening Innovation Policies for SPECA countries in support of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which will be jointly supported by UNEC and ESCAP. So at present, these two activities basically have merged, and which has provided a new impetus to the process. One of the first activities, Yes, previous slide, please. One of the first activities of the project is to develop a regional STI gap analysis, which covers all the SPECA countries, to inform the action plan for the SPECA innovation strategy. So this gap analysis will be based on national STI gap assessments of the SPECA countries, which are being undertaken by national experts. Next slide, please. So how will these national STI gap assessment look like? As I say, they are being conducted in accordance with a common methodology and will contain two main parts. Part one of this assessment will contain an overview of some main aspects of the national STI governance, including STI priorities, policy documents, governance structure, policy formulation, policy instruments, implementation, and coordination, and a final bit which was added subsequently to reflect the impact of COVID-19 on innovation activity. And then there will be a second part which should cover an assessment of key challenges and problems in fostering innovative development. This part will be based on the results of a stakeholder survey with key national stakeholders covering all stakeholder groups. So it is again conducted using common questionnaire and is covering a same set of issues and questions. So the national service will be an unique source of information on the challenges each SPECA country faces in its STI policy. And I would like to stress that this is the first ever time that such a survey is being conducted in each SPECA countries. And we expect with great interest these very interesting results that should come out of these surveys. So we are now in the middle of the process of preparing the national reports. Two such reports are already finished, and we expect the rest of the reports to be ready in the coming weeks. The results of the national reports will feed into a summary report on the sub-regional SPECA STI gap analysis, which will, on the one hand, summarize the results of the national reports. It will present also comparative benchmarking of the SPECA countries in an international perspective, and it should formulate some main conclusions and recommendations. All these documents, the national STI gap assessments and the regional gap analysis, should inform the action plan for implementing the SPECA innovation strategy. So that was it from me at this point. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Rumen, for interesting presentation. I would like also to thank Aida, Christopher, and Michal for informative and interesting presentations for the main theme of today's session, synergies and transformations for the innovation system. And I would like to ask Aida if you received any questions on the current presentations. If you receive, you can please announce if you have anything.
Thank you, Nikolai. I will do. So far, no.
So far, no. Okay, so if I just would like to request all participants to raise this in chat space. If you have any questions, you can use chat in Kudo or YouTube and put your question to the presenters. So when we received your questions, we can answer a bit later. So we, in this regard, not to waste our time, I suggest to move to our next session, perspectives of SPECA member states. And I am happy to give the floor to Mr. Hayatullah Ibrahimi, Director of Innovation and Emerging Technologies, Ministry of Communication and Information Technology of Afghanistan. Over to you, Mr. Ibrahimi, please. Please release the button of microphone, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me the time for this session. I would like to thank from all participants to this meeting. And in Afghanistan, we have already prepared some initial steps, and we are ready to have a digital transformation for the Afghan citizens and the whole country. Therefore, we initiated our innovation and emerging technology concepts in the country, and we have already established some connections with other countries in order to support us in various areas, especially in the practical and implementation areas for the Afghan citizens. It will play a significant role for all Afghans, and also it is a good opportunity for us to support SDG principles. Therefore, Ministry of Communication and Information Technology took the very first initial step. We built a draft for our digital data strategy. It's a draft version of our digital data strategy roadmap for the government of Afghanistan, and we work on it to make it a final version for the whole country, because it would be it is the very first step in order to regulate and give a better ecosystem for the technology and all other related fields. And also it will open new doors for new innovation and also for the technology. As we all know that currently artificial intelligence is one of the topic most countries need to utilize this power. We are about to utilize this technology and this in this era of deep learning and artificial intelligence. We also have some initial plans for the our national language data sets. We currently have no proper data set for our national language. As you know, our national language are Dari and Pashto. We speak in these two languages, and currently we have no sufficient amount of data sets in order to build translation machines, and also help develop more sophisticated systems, and also develop some voice recognition systems and other aspects in the era of digitization and digital transformation. So that's the whole concept. We're going to build this together with all the countries who are involved in this with us, and also the countries who support us in many aspects, from the academic to implementation levels, and also trainings and other stuff. So we are also in an initial step and an initial phase, and hope we together build a good and sustainable system for the Asian countries, and also for the whole world, in order to be connected. That was it from my side, and I would be very happy to have any kinds of questions in this regard. It would be great for our discussions in this regard. Thank you so much for having me here in this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahimi. Our next speaker is Mr. Emil Akhmadov, leading advisor of the Department of International Cooperation, Ministry of Transport, Communications and High Technologies of Azerbaijan. Over to you, Mr. Akhmadov, please. Emil, we cannot hear you. Emil? Mr. Akhmatov, are you with us?
Hello? Is it normal now?
Yeah, yes, now we can hear you. Yeah, and see, please.
Dear participants, dear colleagues, first of all, let me say hello to everyone. And as Mr. Nikolai said, I represent Ministry of Transport, Communication and High Technology of the Republic of Azerbaijan. And among our participants in this working group, we have also Ms. Aygün Ahmadova, Senior Advisor of the Innovation and Digital Development Department of our Minister, and Mr. Fariz Guliyev, Member of the Board on Innovation Agency under our Ministry. First of all, on behalf of Azerbaijan delegation, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to UNESCO and UNICEF for arrangement of this meeting. Of course, this kind of communication is rather unusual for us, but what we can do, it's a peculiarity of time, and it's a good that we have a technology which allow us to see each other. And we closely cooperate with UNICEF and UNESCO in the field of information and communication technology for years. We are regularly and actively participants in all meetings within different framework, including SPECA. Azerbaijan stepped up into the new stage of development, along with the work implemented in order to ensure the dynamic development in the field of the economy. ICT field is an impetus in this process. The government is a leading force of digital transformation in the country, and relevant national strategies and state programs have been adopted for the pursuit. Here I have to mention National Strategy for ICT Development of the Republic of Azerbaijan, State Program on the Development of Communication and Information Technology, National Strategy for Information Society Development in Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan Vision for the Future 2020, and of course, among the main programs is a strategic roadmap of national economy and key sectors of the economy. In all 12 strategic roadmaps adopted in 2016 in our country, as well as in the roadmap of the development of the communication and information technology, important role is given to the application of ICT in order to achieve sustainable development. ICT is one of the priority fields of the development of the state in Azerbaijan. As a result of continuous efforts supported by the state in this sector, is developing rapidly. Today, communication sector is important part of economy also. Share of private sector in total revenue of the country is approximately 80%. The most advanced technology, 4G and LTE, are applied totally private mobile telecommunication segments. More than 80% of country population are internet users. 75% of them use broadband internet. Mobile penetration in Azerbaijan is 110%. Internet access of household increases year on year. Now it's 78.2%. The application of FTTX, I mean fiber to the X technology in the territory, are expanding. Transitional to the digital TV broadcasting has been fully complete. The public internet projects we have was launched in 2018. Now availability of our Wi-Fi in public place, free Wi-Fi, we have 70 zones, and Assam Wi-Fi in 19 zones. E-government projects are being implemented successfully, and currently about 400 government services are offered in a government portal. We are a member of Cosmic Club. Spacefield is developing rapidly. Our country is one of the cosmic states, and other Space One telecommunication satellite, other Sky Earth observation satellite operates successfully. Furthermore, the only data center Tier 3 level in the region is being established in Baku. Azerbaijan is both main and reserved route space in the European Persia Express Gateway, high capacity from the Frankfurt to Oman. Of course, as Mr. Ziano Bonapas in his speech mentions that most 52% of our region is remain unconnected. Therefore, our regional cooperation, Mr. Pomoshnikov, is inevitable. And here I can give you some examples that agreements have signed with Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan on fiber optic cables that laying along the bottom of the Caspian Sea. This project will give a serious impetus to the implementation of our TASIM projects, which will launch it in 2008, which will give the relevant line from Frankfurt to Hong Kong. Dear colleagues, our achievements are indicated in annual reports of different international organizations, and the development of ICT sector in Azerbaijan is highly estimated. Here I can name the United Nations E-Government Survey 2020. Azerbaijan gives 17th place among 193 countries. Then we have United Nations E-Government Survey E-Participation Index in the 73 place out of 193 countries. The World Bank report Doing Business in the 33 place out of 190 countries, and the Global Innovation Index in the 84th place among 129 countries. I would love to share with you some other information that may be interesting to you. That during the World Economic Forum in Davos in January, President of the Republic of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev and President of World Economic Forum Borja Brenda signed a protocol of intent to establish a regional center forum for the fourth industrial revolution in Azerbaijan. Just for your information, I would like to note that such centers are created in a very limited number of countries, and the main purpose is to fulfill the challenge and opportunities to that four industrial revolutions causes. When we're talking about innovation, I have to mention about Innovation Agency, which was established on the basis of ICT Fund and High Technology Park under the Ministry of Transport, Communication and High Technologies. The Innovation Agency is an agency that assists local business entities in acquiring modern technologies and technological solutions, organize a transfer, support innovation-oriented scientific research, and encourage innovative projects, including startups, by funding them through the grants, concessional loans, and venture capital funds. The agency also has a business incubation acceleration center to support the ideas of young people. Under the auspice of the Ministry of Transport, the agency organizes different events like innovation weeks, innovation festivals, and innovation hours, like from idea to business startups to cover the regions of the country. Meanwhile, as I have mentioned in my speech, the representatives of agency also participate here. If you have some specific questions, we will reply also to your questions. And dear colleagues, dear representative of countries, I have to, in the last point, also mention that today we live in unique time, and that modern information and communication technology are playing vital role in fighting against this pandemic by serving people, businesses, and governments, agencies as the main tool to organize their life and activities. Recent events shows that the coronavirus pandemic requires a continuous development and improvement of main two sectors, is ICT and transport and logistics in terms of supply chains. In this context, we observe significant growth in the demand and usage of ICT and internet technologies. The main reason of that is not only the serious need of for these tools, but also the resilience of the technology and security. I must note that measures taken in Azerbaijan to use of ICT during this in the fight against the pandemic are fully consistent with international practice. First of all, the sustainability of the telecommunication infrastructures has been increased, bringing it into line with growing demand. Telecommunication operators, mobile operators, and internet service providers have switched to shifted and online working mode to protect their staff from the infection while improving the quality of services. New information systems have been created by government agencies, and the services needed in the pandemic period have been introduced on the basis of existing systems. The existing system have allowed provide economic support to the businesses, social assistance to the population in a short period of time. Along with a special website, a mobile application has been created to educate and inform the population. This application is also used as an information notification system for the citizens and as a tracking system for infected people. That's all from my part. Thank you so much. I thank you all, Mr. Nikolai.
Thank you very much, Emil, for excellent statement and for high assessment of cooperation between Azerbaijan and ESCAP and ECE. I think definitely we need to enhance our cooperation in ICT area. Regarding the Azerbaijan's achievements in this area, I witnessed myself by participating in Bakutel last year in December. Great achievements of Azerbaijan in this area, including robotics, including artificial intelligence, and so on and so on. So I think we have a big scope for enhancing our cooperation in all these areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. With pleasure. Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And I would like to give the floor to our next speaker, Mr. Ilyas Aspanov, Director of the Center on Innovations and Technology Transfer from Kazakhstan. Please, the floor is yours, Mr. Aspanov.
Can you see me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear and we can see your presentation.
Okay, I would like to thank you for what I've heard so far. I'm really happy to hear good results from Azerbaijan and some initial beginnings from the Afghanistan. And I would like to use this floor actually to say hello to every my colleague from different countries, because usually during the year we used to meet face to face, but this time actually I'm missing these meetings around the world. So and also I would like to present some achievements and some plans for Kazakhstan, which we have set so far. And this pandemic thing have changed our mind on how we should develop furthermore. And if you don't mind, I will give my presentation in Russian, because most of our neighbors, I think it's easier for them to go in Russian. So if I start, so the second slide. Уважаемые, еще раз, уважаемые участники, буду говорить на русском языке.
Distinguished participants, I will start in Russian now. And if someone would like to ask me a question in English, you are also welcome to do it in English. The slides will be translated and later on distributed among the participating states. Here we have the results regarding Kazakhstan. We have successfully established the e-government platform, which is proved by Mr. Aspanov's presentation and international reviews. We are on the 29th world rating of the United Nations on e-government. We keep the 40th place on cybersecurity, according again to the UN rating. And generally speaking, in terms of the level of coverage of e-services is reached 82.1%, and the digital literacy of the population is also quite high, more than 80%. And you know that currently we have one shop window approach, and this window, single window, is available in most cases electronically. We provided millions of services a day, and pandemic is a big challenge for us on one hand, but on the other hand, I think we managed to cope with such a stress and deliver the online services to all the requests by the citizens. Our call centers were under very big stress because we've got a big number by tenfold increased the requests to our hotlines during the most peak of the quarantine. We also provided the distant services for provisioning electronic digital signatures to our citizens. So we provided these services through the artificial intelligence, and more than 1 million of electronic digital signatures were distributed among the users. Currently, we would like to provide more than 90% of total electronic services, especially for businesses, which is definitely a priority for us at the moment. Much had been spoken about the connectivity. We are one of the leader in the world on accessibility to the internet. More than 96% are covered by the internet, and currently we have more than 4,600 settlements covered with high broadband connectivity. We just need to connect 280 settlements in remote areas, and these activities will be continued, and by the end of 2022 Kazakhstan will be covered completely, almost by 99.9% of with the internet. Next slide, please. We talked much, but no one specifically mentioned this factor that for Kazakhstan, one of the important factor is developing human capital. Everything what we are doing currently is to booster our human capital capacity. Currently, all schools in our countries are equipped with internet connectivity. More than 94% of schools are connected to the internet, and on the annual basis, more than 10,000 scholarships are provided. More than 20,000 students are completed their training, their bachelor degree in connectivity and IT, and we hence have quite a big foundation in terms of providing specialists and young specialists in particular for the ICTs. And this is not only tertiary training. We in the grammar schools providing special courses for the students in terms of training ITC. More than 10,000 special classes we have in our colleges, and we also recently opened more colleges and universities specifically focused on ITC training. And this is also an important feature like the Astana Hub, where we have a special Alem park for IT technologies. And currently in Kazakhstan, we have a pool of universities which are trained in informational technologies. And we try to match with the huge demand in IT specialists based on our efforts with common citizens. We instructed our local governments and centers for providing governmental services to raise people's literacy in ITC. That is very important. Bear in mind that we would like to have 90% of our governmental services online for the citizens. One of the elements of digitalization is ecosystem for the ITC. And in this regard, we would like to work more and more with the businesses. We established the Astana Hub, as already mentioned. This is a very good platform for attracting investments with simplified visa procedures. And we would like to welcome all startups all over the world to participate in this Astana Hub platform for IT technologies. In fact, this is a kind of business angel approach where we could provide most convenient conditions. We attracted about $100 million already, which is a big accomplishment. And our startups just last year attracted $12 million. We have many projects within this platform. One of the main focus of Digital Kazakhstan program is to support overall our IT sector. Currently, we have 7,000 IT companies which employed more than 70,000 IT specialists, high quality professionals with proper salaries. 245 ICT companies, they are providing services abroad, and the volume of services abroad totaled more than $20 million. So they exported more than $20 million services abroad. And we also have IT champion program. Since last year, we picked up 10 most promising IT companies, which will be supported heavily by the government. We also have to mention that these are the activities which are supported also with the proper legal framework. We had to change many pieces of legislation. We introduced more than 700 regulations, addressed 11 codes, and 58 pieces of legislation were adopted and transformed to the new challenges. Just recently, we introduced absolutely new terms such as yellow pages rules, digital assets, chain money. These are all new terms and definitions which are required for us. And that means that Kazakhstan will be matched with the international standards in terms of legal framework. Here we have an overview of our main accomplishments. As of our digital Kazakhstan implementation for 2 years, we have economic impact total more than $2 billion US, and we attracted investments of more than $100 million into this sector. And the impact of this $100 million investments total $2 billion US And we also attracted $93 million of investments to innovation system. We also provided 120,000 additional vacancies in this sector. This is mainly due to e-commerce development in specific areas. Totally summing up everything what I said before, in Kazakhstan we established the proper IT infrastructure, and we also build up the legal framework, and more importantly we have a proper human capital for this. We developing local companies which are provided their solutions also abroad and not only locally. And the next step, if we will compare it with it, we are focusing on the state processes mainly so far, but the next stage for digitalization development, and we know that we need to provide high effective digitalization of the main economic sectors. And in this regard, we would like to implement through technological platforms, because digitalization implies some specific activities, and we are picking up the growth points and develop our efforts in this area. Next slide, please. And the next one, yes. Uh, yes, this one. Uh, Digital data is the foundation for all fast developing technologies, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and others. Development of platform for digital data could provide us with the new opportunities which would definitely contribute to innovation, uh, labor productivity, social development, and this would provide us various links in order to establish an overarching system of communication. We learn from the best international practices, and such technological approach can be named differently. Clusters in the UK, these are special smart cities and centers. This approach used in various countries, including United States, Europe, Australia, or um, Gulf countries. I don't want to speak much about this, but just focus on one specific example, because all other examples are available in our web platform. We have main focuses such as fintech, smart city, govtech, artificial intelligence, industry 4.0, space, geotech, agrotech, and green tech. These are all efforts which are based on the digitalization. And here we have a synergy between business, government, uh, and citizens. The focus here is given on GovTech. That is comprehensive digitalization which aims at providing better opportunities for the businesses and provisioning of government services to the businesses. And we spoke much about information technologies and information and cybersecurity in particular, and this will give us more opportunities to develop all those sectors. So overall, that is a transformation of governmental services, and GovTech is the platform which was successfully proven in Singapore, in South Korea, in Estonia, and overall, to let you understand the global market of GovTech total more than 40 billion US dollars globally. And in order to establish ideal technologies and ideal e-government, we have to provide the platform and foundation for these efforts in order to simplify integrations to the governmental services.
Возможно, вы слышали, в Казахстане уже есть платформа.
Probably you've just heard about Smart Bridge platform that was and the Smart Data UKMet, so based on which new services can be provided. So, and of course, as a result of significant transformations, significant effects will be attained up to 75% of local or domestic content in IT projects, so jointly with domestic companies. And of course, it's quite important to create during first 5 years quality IT project, like 60 new IT startups and high quality startups. And in total, governmental expenses will be cut down by 10% in the budget, meaning. So this is global, due to the global practice. Then I will just highlight our smart city projects. These are in smart city, we just view these projects from the point of view of the population. We take into consideration different toolkits and standards, and of course, we are cooperating with local executive bodies so that they will get oriented at local population demand and needs. And in general, changes take place based on inclusive indicators, so that the standard of life, population improvement, security and safety of population. So Smart City launches pilot projects in 4 cities. Next slide, please. Industry 4.0. So as you know, so this is the platform which would allow digitalizing, meaning moving to the next level our industrial enterprises, and it will create a big scope of work and the potential for startup development for these companies, because huge companies can place good orders for technologies to be implemented.
Summarize because we have 4 more speakers.
Yeah. So I will rush through them.
And in these areas, actually, we've got 10 of them. So if you just look at them, agri-tech, blockchain, space, geotech, artificial intellect, AI, new Switzerland of data. And we will just, let's go to the slide 18. Slide 18, where I will conclude my presentation. Slide 18. Slide 18, please. And in general, in conclusion, I would like to say that we think that Kazakhstan is ready. We have a good digital community in place, formed, and we are supposing to move to the next layer. If anyone needs more detailed information, we would gladly share it. Thank you for having organized this event, and thank you for this opportunity. Aida?
Long presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ospanov. I think really Kazakhstan made great achievements in the area of digital transformation, and we also witnessed these achievements by participating this year in January in Almaty Digital International Conference. I think it was really very impressive. And I think Kazakhstan can share the best experience in this area with other SPECA member states. I think it will be also very important. Okay, and I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Ermek Omuraliyev, from the Foreign Ministry of Kyrgyzstan. Please, Mr. Omuraliyev.
Good afternoon. Let me first of all express on the behalf of our ministry our gratitude to the organizers of today's meeting, Ms. Elizabeth, Ms. Tiziana. So our greatest thanks. I'll try to be as short as possible. Due to the time constraints, the Kyrgyzstan, like other countries, facing the overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, and we all witnessed that how it's important to speed up all other processes related to the digital infrastructure and digital sustainability. Our country is working on the implementation of sustainable development goals in accordance to the indicators and the characteristics of the UN. Since 2016, Kyrgyzstan with the other with UN and with other international partners is under the process to achieve 17 sustainable development goals. On the country level, we adopted the National Strategy for Sustainable Development of the Kyrgyz Republic for the period of 2018-2040. And on the local based, we just adopted the countrywide national concept Digital Kyrgyzstan for 2019-2023. You see that the pandemic showed us that the rapid digitalization of public services and soonest implementation of digital learning, digital education, would it be on the primary, secondary, or high level, is the high priority now. It's what we are working on concretely now. This is on the government side. On the business side, we're all striving for the digital economy with the developing of the e-commerce. So as we see, it's important to develop the projects, concrete initiatives within this direction, and we call the close cooperation on the basis of the PPP, public-private partnership, because both the government side and the business side shall be with the hand in hand to promote all these projects. And especially today, we're also invited to today's webinar, representatives from our business circles, the PPP foundations. So I just would like to underline this issue. And as I said, during this process, it's important to pay attention for the two constraints. One is the regulatory side, which is related to the government, and other one is the practical implementation of such projects, which is related to the both government and the business. And the primary goal of the government is to create the conditions for the business to promote the digital economy and commerce. On the other hand, we shall not forget about the challenges. One of the highest challenges we should keep in mind is the IT security. So the cyber security, it's a highest challenge, and within the our framework of SPECA projects or other projects, we have to pay utmost attention to this factor. As I said, we all witnessing that such projects are adopted on the countrywide, region-wide, and the worldwide. So we have to think about the synergies that between these projects on the country, region, and worldwide. And finally, I would like just to say that no need to invent a new bicycle. So such in a good manner, we have to promote the success stories. So if something good, like we just witnessing our Kazakh partners in a specific field is very successful, we shall spread it to the other nations, to the other partners. And to sum up, I would like to say that Kyrgyz Republic, like many other states of the world, has suffered the pandemic economic losses, and we all having the shortages, or let's say limitation on the country's budget resources. Within this sense, I would like to call for the international organizations and all other partners to focus more on the original projects. The good example of the good regional projects, I would like to share about the one of the current projects, ongoing one on digital infrastructure project. It's called Digital Casa. You know that there is a Casa project which is related to the electricity exportation within the Central Asia and South Asia region. In parallel to this, we with our partners with the World Bank, which we are thankful for, is working on the project Digital Casa. The project goals are to expand the access to the more accessible internet, to attract the private investment into the sector, to increase the government's capacity to provide digital public services, and to develop the capacity of our schools on a region base in terms of the internet access and including to the process of the digitalizations. So we call for the speediest resumption of multifaceted cooperation among our countries within the framework of today's topic for the digital infrastructure and sustainability initiatives. And I aim to mutually benefit cooperation based on the spirit of the Great Silk Road, which is peaceful interaction, openness, tolerance, mutual learning, mutual benefit, and all this which should be result in the creation of our stable region, our stable world development. Thank you very much. And I would like to say that Kyrgyzstan is always ready and welcomes such initiatives and the topics. And we have to orient our high officials, or would it be the SPECA Economic Forum, or would it be the SPECA Governing Council, that we need to cooperate more closely, focusing on the such items that I just mentioned for. Thank you very much, and great thanks on the behalf of the Kyrgyz Republic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amuraliyev, for your informative and very interesting statement and your proposals to strengthen cooperation in this area. I think we will be in position further discuss this at SPECA Economic Forum in Kyrgyzstan in November. Also in this digital mode. Let me now invite Mr. Anwar Kadyrov from Center of Innovative Development of Science and New Technologies of the National Academy of Science of Tajikistan to take the floor. The floor is yours, Mr. Kadyrov, please. Mr. Kadyrov, are you with us? Yes. Please, the floor is yours. Please.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники, уважаемые организаторы.
Good afternoon, distinguished participants and dear organizers. My name is Kadyrov Anvar, the director of Innovation Development Center and New Technologies at the Academy of Sciences in the Republic of Tajikistan. Apart from other problems, the pandemic challenges us in terms of the ICT. That has a big impact on the resilience of our ICT in the period of lockdown. The reception of governmental services, payments, educational sessions, these are all things which should be done online. This could be only possible only through the successful deployment of e-government. Back in 2012, we had a concept for electronic government development. This implied provisioning of electronic services to the citizens, business communities, and everybody else without physical communication between government and the citizens. One of the main problem of failures of this program was a lack of overarching agency which would be totally responsible for the e-government. As far as the situation now, the government undertook a number of measures to provide information electronically in the situation of pandemic, providing information through the mass media and other announcements important for the health of the citizens to all the areas in our republic. We also attracted civil campaigners for this. Globalization and ICT development leads to revolutionary changes everywhere. That is the speeding up of the ICT and electronic services in every area, including sports and leisure. Within the past years in my country, we adopted a number of new pieces of legislation directly linked with the information communication technologies, which leads to a bigger number of electronic services providers, mobile operators number in the country, and overall the ICT development infrastructure. We also encompassed various areas to this program and sectors. We have a special provision on internet freedom in the Republic, including a number of important pieces of legislation. The total legal framework is focused on the digital strategy for our development adopted in 2004 and the respective programs which were adopted on the basis of this roadmap. You know that we have problems with specialists and experts. 93% of our country is situated in highly mountainous areas. That is why the Republic of Tajikistan is quite vulnerable to calamities due to these peculiarities of our geographical landscape. In pandemic, we have some problems because many of our areas are, or rather the income of most of households depend upon the remittances from labor migrants. More than 70% of our citizens are in rural settlements, and they are also considered as a vulnerable groups of population during pandemics especially. Export base is heavily dependent upon the labor migrants' remittances from abroad to their families. What are the perspectives in this area? At the beginning of the year, the President of our Republic signed a special decree on the 2 decades plan for science and technology development. That means that the institutions directly linked with the science and technologies should be in the limelight of governmental program. I think that this program, this 2 decade program, is very relevant. This program should address the following problems. The access to the internet is number one. The access to the internet, especially in the remote parts of our republic. E-learning. During the pandemic, students are not provided with the internet or electronic gears of communication by the government. The second big problem is environment and lack of power. Just recently, the Republican government announced another limitation for the citizens in electricity usage. This is due to the fact that our water reservoir did not have enough water to generate electricity in our hydropower stations because of a drought. We are lacking 11 meters of water depth for generating enough power in the Nurek hydropower station. So if we're talking about the problems, is first electronic learning, and secondly, providing electricity to everyone. And that means we need not only ICT for the educational purposes, but we also need ICT in order to provide uninterrupted supply with power to all the citizens, and hence we have to make a special emphasis on the renewables development. And I hope that this webinar and the working group will be a very important platform to discuss these important issues for us. And I hope that everything will go smoothly in this direction, and wish you success, and thank you for your attention.
За ваше выступление и за ваши предложения в плане.
Thank you very much, Anwar, for your presentation and for your focus on ICT, environment, and disaster risk reduction, and how you could solve all those issues with the help of the ICT. I think we will take this into consideration, and the SPECA thematic group on STI and ICT will be definitely focused on these priorities.
Mr. Davlet Chatbayev from Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkmenistan, and he will share the perspectives of Turkmenistan in area of ICT. Please, Mr. Chatbayev, the floor is yours. Davlet, can you hear us?
You may accept Selim Tajiv.
Selim Tajiv. I have two speakers in my list, Selim Tajiv and Davlet Chatbayev from Turkmenistan. Who will speak? Turkmenistan, the floor is yours. Selim, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the floor. With your permission, I'd like to continue my speech in Russian language. Уважаемые организаторы, коллеги, дамы и господа.
Distinguished organizers, colleagues, ladies and gents, before proceeding to my presentation, I would like to sincerely thank the organizers for having me at the first meeting of the CISTSTI meeting. Since the moment of 2005 adoption, the Tunisian Information Society Declaration, we have very high speed of digitalization. 2015, more than half of the global population are internet users, and now we have more and more ICT, and since then the world meetings are mainly focusing on the ICT development. We developed and introduced new technologies globally. As far as Turkmenistan is specifically concerned, in my country, we established a special program for digitalization of all areas of our economy sectors, providing scientific applications to our industry. In the framework of digitalization, we came up with specific services and virtual platforms for raising social and communal standards for our citizens. We established a number of specific laws for digitalization in the country, a number of new departments and agencies, services providers are established in the framework of this digitalization policy. On the 4th of March, our parliament, the Majlis, has adopted a draft law on e-workflow and e-services. In the Republic, we have established a concept for digital economy development until 2025, which is in fact a roadmap for technological transformation of all sectors and governmental services over them. This is based on big resources and our economic output. The above-mentioned paper establishes an overview of the current situation with ICT, and the main focus is also given to the practical implementation of this roadmap. In Turkmenistan, we established active activities on new technologies and emerging technical solutions, as well as training professionals in the ICT sector. We also have a special program for specialist training in our special training services centers and the universities. Currently, we also broadly represented our country in the internet worldwide. For instance, our financial services providers are providing more opportunities electronically, such as e-commerce solutions through the national payment system. Digitalization of all areas and transfer to the digital economy is one of the priorities for developing in our country for the small businesses in particular.
Жизни граждан. Это качественно новый этап.
This is a new quality step out of the national economy, the transition being possible with the new government, so including industrial sector and others. So the prospects for our country development is interrelated with the external factors, further integration into global economic links, intensifying mutually beneficial trade and investment partnership. So based on the scientific progress and development of ways to resolve global challenges. So the new development areas are integrated into all programs and social policies. Therefore, the President of Turkmenistan intensifies, facilitates development of online learning and tools for e-government and so on. Digitalizing economic, industrial, managerial process would allow to create smart cities where population demand will be met by to a more extent and in a faster way. For example, additional workplaces in computer sciences and IT. In this regard, quite topical is training high-skilled specialists, including digital economy. One of the key areas specified by the head of the state is providing digital and mobile services. Therefore, national programs for grassroots transformation in settlements and local communities will be continuous based on the regional and local level, thus becoming a powerful catalyzer for their economic development. In conclusion of my presentation, I would like to thank once again for great organization of the event and high quality presentations and statements which would allow us to further intensify our work. I hope that our cooperation will be continued in the future. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
We participated in last year SPECA Economic Forum held in Ashgabat, and it was adopted a very important document, Ashgabat Initiative, which provides roadmap to different movements forward in the areas of transport, ICT, trade, and so on. And I think Turkmenistan can provide very good inputs to further development of this initiative at the next economic forum chaired by Kyrgyzstan this year in November. Thank you very much.
Спасибо, спасибо большое.
To give the floor to our next speaker, Mr. Shagabuddin Sharifov, Director of Scientific and Practical Center for the Implementation of Innovative Projects under the Ministry of Innovative Development of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Please, Mr. Sharifov, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Hello. Yes, we can hear you, and we can see you. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. Thank you for this invitation and for the opportunity to talk on behalf of the Ministry of Innovation and Development of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Taking into consideration unprecedented conditions of pandemic dissemination in the global community, so all the measures are taken to counteract this disaster. Under conditions of the global pandemic, it's important to discuss agenda issues, e-resilience and The general recommendations for further action plan. As President of the Republic of Uzbekistan emphasized, one of the conditions of the development of the Republic of Uzbekistan is the development of industry, social and other spheres, thus applying developments of science and technologies. With the digital technology, we are experiencing a revolution associated with technologies, including production systems, which improves productivity and lays a ground for new businesses. In order to accelerate country development based on the achievements of the global science and global technologies, as well as step-by-step implementation of tasks, specific strategies and concepts, and action plans for the development of Uzbekistan for 2017-2022. Strategy of innovative development has been developed for 2019-2021. In addition, roadmap for strategy implementation has been developed with and all the indicators through 2030 have been developed. One of the areas identified is by 2030, for Uzbekistan to get into the top 50 countries in global index. Take into consideration all the innovation, scientific and research and project design and technological works, implementation of modern forms of financing enterprises in this area. In order to further develop so for the entrepreneurship entities, a new version of the portal, governmental services portal, has been developed. Today, through the e-portal, 176 electronic or digital services have been provided. So 15 million requests and applications have been enrolled and received, which allows to interact with the population and ensure their interaction with the governmental authorities. According to the report, in 2018, regional roadmap was adopted with the agenda for sustainable development through 2030 in the Asian Pacific region. That roadmap stipulated that in spite of the progress, of the regional progress in terms of broadband internet, digital divide is still increasing. And with the prospect, the prospects of the countries, development countries, are just reduced with the development of such technologies as AI and blockchain technologies. That means that countries may launch new opportunities for broadband connectivity. And therefore, the initiatives for ATP superhighway initiative that was developed to overcome the issues, which would provide opportunities for the development of ICT in this area. During the past period, the country achieved or carried out big work. If we analyze during 2019, so there were works completed in the country to create systems to provide electronic public services and implement new interaction mechanisms between government and entrepreneurship entities and the population, development of ICT infrastructure. So in Uzbekistan, internet capacity connection was 101,000 something gigabit per second. And the channel for operators and providers was improved versus the and the pressure. The burden and the price just declined versus the previous year. The number of internet users in Uzbekistan is up to 22 million. Therefore, mobile internet users number increased up to 19 million. 2020 is announced the year for the development of science, enlightenment, and digital technology. So the head of the state announced that transition to the digital economy is one of the priorities. So April 2020, new measures or new resolution of the government or president was adopted for the transition to the digital economy. According to it, through 2023, so the GDP will just improve and thanks to the digital economy, with the export increasing up to 100 million. So development of telecom infrastructure and ICT technologies implementation would serve implementation of this important goal. Back in 2019, 10,000 kilometers of fiber optics were laid in the country, and the total distance of length is 36.6 thousand kilometers. Take into consideration that more than 60% of the population is young population in Uzbekistan. Therefore, one of the goals is to involve them into the future development. Therefore, the Ministry of Innovative Technologies is a bridge for this, provides bridge for this new population, for this young population. So the new law on information activities was passed, which stipulates for the involvement of public entities into these activities. 6 laboratories are operating in the country. Laboratory of unmanned vehicles, laboratory for 5G technologies, aerospace laboratory, and others. Thus taking the advantage, I would like the chance. I would like to inform you on in a week that we are going to have that would be just held in November 3 to 6 in a virtual format on the Nalikus. Nalikus is just annual event which is aimed at demonstrating the potential accumulated as well as works carried out in the area of innovations, high technologies, and scientific technical sphere. At the end of the event, we will provide all this information to the organizers of the webinar, and we will be glad if you and representatives of your country will join us at our inner week. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, for this opportunity to speak up. We hope for future fruitful cooperation, and we wish you all success and good health, and we sincerely hope that the next event will be held offline. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sharifov. So this is really very interesting. We're looking forward to get your invitation for participating in this innovative week that we're going to disseminate among our network of participants so that they would be able to discuss the most important issues that you highlighted in your statement or presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We had opportunity to listen all SPECA member states, and we had acquainted with perspectives of SPECA member states in ICT and innovations. And I think we can move to session 4. And start exchange of views and start our dialogue on e-resilience, innovations, and all other issues raised by honorable SPECA representatives. So I would like to request honorable representative from Afghanistan, Mr. Ibrahimi, to share his views on on the statements of SPECA representatives. Please, Mr. Ibrahimi.
So as I have shared my speech and I have shared my ideas and also information regarding the event and also our preparations in Afghanistan. I pleased to hear from Mohsen, who also participated from Afghanistan. I gave the word to Mr. Mohsen. Can you hear me? If you hear me, please raise your hand and join the meeting. Mr. Mohsen?
Please accept Afghanistan and Sahla Mose. Yes. Please go ahead to save time. Just go ahead. We have
Okay.
only 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. With respect to Afghanistan, the case is a little bit different. In the yeah, the, yeah, and the main reason for that is the lack of infrastructure that we have in Afghanistan, because other countries, member countries, they have gone through some of the initial stages and they are up to an advanced and enhanced process. But in Afghanistan, the basic infrastructure is also highly influenced by war and conflict. Even currently, I hope the representative from the Ministry of Communication and Information Technologies agreed on this point with me, that the quality, even the basic thing, which is the internet, the quality and also the price is very expensive in Afghanistan. So compared to other member states, Afghanistan has longer way to go because of the poor infrastructure. Even the electricity is the problem. Currently in Afghanistan, we have a shortage of electricity. And throughout the year, the even the capital city of Afghanistan, Kabul, does not have a 24 times 7 electricity. So electricity, the internet, other communication infrastructure, the prices, the qualities, these are all challenges which makes Afghanistan totally different than other cities. So the government of Afghanistan, fortunately, in the international community is working together in order to initiate some steps and get these things further and make ourselves an advanced country in terms of technology. But there are very few steps currently taken. But there are international donors such as UNDP, World Bank, and some other international institutions which are helping the Afghan government. One of the main thing that currently we can talk about is the e-governance, with the an order, official order of the president of Afghanistan, Mr. Ashraf Ghani, orders given to the National Information and Statistics Authority to oversee the e-governance structure and try to implement the e-governance in all parts of the Afghanistan. Plus, there are digitalization work going on Recently, we experienced the digitalization of procurement authority, that all the procurement in the national level will be taken online. In the higher education sector, we have implemented a project called the Higher Education Learning Management System. Nonetheless, it has its own disadvantages and challenges. In the government of Afghanistan, the Ministry of Higher Education is hardly working on this. Plus, the quality and speed and price of the internet, the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, the Minister, His Excellency himself, is working on reduction of the prices. However, it's done to some extent, but still it's uncomparable with the region countries, both from the price and quality perspective. And also on the government sector, the digitalization, there's a project Afghanistan Digital, which is also the responsibility of the National Information and Statistics Authority, and they have 4 pillars in order to reform the government systems. Another area I can mention is the access to information, which is now digitalized and everyone can access. And there are several other parts that, due to the lack of time, I won't mention them, but these were the main points and bold topics that is currently going on in Afghanistan. Thank you very much. If any question, then you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahimi, for sharing your views on these issues. Next representative whom I would like to give the floor, that is representative of Azerbaijan, Mr. Emil Akhmatov. Would you like to share your views, please?
Thank you very much, Nikolai. I thank you all representatives. The discussion was very fruitful and they exchanged their views and their best practices. But despite this, we have seen there is some disparity in our regions and between the countries. Even in his speech, our representative from Afghanistan mentioned. Therefore, I think the regional cooperation is necessary for us, which will narrow this inequality within the countries and, of course, between our countries. And taking this opportunity, I would request the Secretariat, as I have mentioned in my speech, that pandemic requires the continuous development of mainly 2 sectors, ICT and transport, and we have different projects in ICT in transport field. And therefore, I ask you to consider the possibility of organizing the workshops or some capacity buildings events regarding the digitalizations of existing transport corridors of transport links which connect the SPECA countries. And I think it will be very useful in terms of connectivity, in terms of ICT, and in terms of which eventually lead for the development of and the well-being of all countries. Thank you so much for giving the floor. And I will, that was my brief regarding this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Emil, for interesting proposal. We noted. Next, I would like to give the floor representatives from Kazakhstan. I have a few persons already requested to speak. First in my list is Ms. Asel Delsinbayeva from the Ministry of Innovations and Infrastructure. The floor is yours, Asel, please.
Asil, just go ahead.
Yes, please.
Mic, camera.
Yeah.
Здравствуйте. Спасибо
Good afternoon, and I want to thank you for this excellent opportunity to discuss our outgoing issues and accomplishments. I am specifically in charge of the industrial and transport development projects in my country, Kazakhstan. We are ready, and first of all, we would like to offer communication and cooperation in the sphere of transport and international uh, shipping. And if you have any proposals to the development of transport and international shipping routes, we are ready to discuss these developments. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you for your proposal. We will put down your proposal into our records, the records of our meeting. Next, on behalf of Kazakhstan, we have Elena Shevchenko. Elena, please, the floor is yours. Uh,
Слышно? Здравствуйте, слышно?
Да, слышно. Пожалуйста.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for supporting such an important topic as digitalization and innovation development, which has a very big importance for all our country in the region. And the pandemic situation demonstrated that the digital future is inevitable, and even those who had doubts about the future of digitalization has no doubts now at all. We are now have to be prepared for the new challenges, because this is not the last, unfortunately, pandemic in the world, which would drastically changes our way of communication and our way of life. And this is not only about life, but mainly about business and trade. And in this regard, we need to get prepared, so our region will be prepared for the new restrictions and challenges which could future brings to us. And I think the main thing here is to provide affordable internet to the regional countries, and we have such an initiative as the IT superhighway in the Asian Pacific region. And in this regard, we could have many joint projects in digitalization in the area of health and education. These are the most priorities for all countries in the world, irrespective of their level of development, including e-learning and telemedicine. The next one is application of space technologies, and in this direction, Kazakhstan has a specific competencies and infrastructure which jointly with other countries we could use in terms of geospacing data, which would help us to solve environmental problems, monitoring of shipping routes, and population migration, which would be very relevant now and in the future as well. And another proposal which I would like to voice now is about development of a new digital technologies, including the financial sector. Kazakhstan is a leader in this area, and we established an international financial center called Astana, which offers special tax provisions and a legal system based on the common law, the English law, and you could get registered online to this platform and have an instant access to Central Asian markets as well as Eurasian Union markets and Chinese market. This all proposals, which I just voiced, are mainly focused on broadening up those opportunities which we have for cooperation in the area of digitalization. We see that many countries have a lot of in common in terms of developing broadband internet and provisioning e-services to the citizens.
На самом высоком уровне.
This initiative should be supported at the highest level. I would like to thank once again the organizers for this extremely important event for our region. So these are my proposals in general. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Elena. We just noted your proposals.
Kazakhstan is Miriam Atanayeva, Ministry of Science and Education of Kazakhstan. Please, Miriam, the floor is yours.
Добрый день, участники заседания.
Good afternoon, distinguished participants of the workshop, experts. Can you hear me? Participants of the working group, can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you quite well. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity to take part in this. First, to listen to the interesting presentations and to learn about the experience of Central Asian and Asian Pacific region countries, what they do, how they move on, and how they develop. And thank you very much for this opportunity to speak up and just to take part in this dialogue on behalf of the minister. So, as I'm the only representative of the education area or community, I would like just to speak about digitalizations in education. Mr. Dombrinsky was talking from European Alliance, was talking about the challenges just faced by many countries. Yes, education system of Kazakhstan also just faced pandemic, and that we have to cope and overcome the challenges and threats that emerged. That was quite unexpectedly, and so I think we managed to do this in a better way and much faster because since 2012 we've got a digitalization system developed in the educational area and the establishment of the education data and the network of educational institutions that just unites all the educational institutions, and we are just monitoring so the child life from birth to the labor market entry, so and entering. So we just track his or her path. Such system allowed us to get integrated with governmental and not governmental educational systems, and so which would improve services in the system of education, and which will continue further digitalization. Third, we just started developing that, and now we are coming up to the time when we are developing AI elements thus to be implemented into the educational system, because the data accumulated and knowledge accumulated will support all this. Why I just wanted to talk about this, because the countries that took the floor today, so they had a certain we had similar or common past in the system of education, and this historic past allows just exchanging our experience, the most positive experience, best practices, and with the colleagues from Kyrgyzstan, so who just visited us last year and just learned our experience and actually overtook a practical part of it. So this is the first what I just wanted to mention. Second, I just wanted to draw your attention to another aspect. I just listened to all the presentation and really impressed by achievements and the goals that we are going to attain and the tasks that are set by each country. But I would like to draw your attention first of all to the human capital, because no quality growth will be attained through digitalization without human capital. And the most important issue that we are facing, so meaning by the countries, so the segregation which is brought by the digitalization to the society, because there is segregation process between young people and older people, because young people are more adaptive, much faster in getting adapted. It's quite easy to overtake new practices, but older population is much more maybe slower in terms of adapting. We should not forget about this issue and just focus our attention on the older population and of course on rural population, because it should not lag behind, because if only cities are get digitalized, so this digital divide between rural and urban areas will only grow, will only increase. And of course, I would like just to wish clear regulations in terms of in this sphere, because without these regulations, no digitalization will take place. I'm talking about primarily educational sphere. So that's all from my side. Thank you for this opportunity. If you have any questions or any wishes or any proposals, we are always open. Thank you. Thank you, Miriam. I think so the issues are quite correct in terms of, or these are proper issues in relation to the digital education, adult population, and the population residing in rural areas. I know how. Oh, I know quite for sure, because our office is based in, I mean, sub-regional office is based in Kazakhstan. We are closely cooperating with our UN colleagues from UNICEF, from UNESCO in digital education and connecting schools to internet. This is huge work which is being carried out and which is an ongoing work. And so the pace is quite good. And of course, Kazakhstan has a lot of things to share, but the issues that you raised, they are quite important, specifically in the pandemic conditions. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. I would like to give the floor to the representatives of Kyrgyzstan.
Representatives of Kyrgyzstan. I have in my list two speakers. One is Nurlan Mamyrov, or Aybek Kurenkey.
Sorry, we are over time, maybe only one. But
Only one.
if we
Okay.
can do 1 minute each, because we have to finish.
Okay, if we have both, yeah, please, 1 minute each. Representative, Mr. Mamyrov, the floor is yours, if you are with us, please. I think probably Mr. Mamyrov.
Mic on, camera on, please.
Yeah. Please switch on your microphone. Yes, yes, Nurlan, please. We cannot hear you. Мы вас не слышим.
Shall we give the floor to Mr. Ermek Omuraliyev, please? 1 minute.
Коллеги, позвольте мне еще раз вас поблагодарить.
Distinguished colleagues, I would like to thank you once again, because it's a timely and quite important event. Just a couple of proposals from our side. First, I absolutely agree with Miriam Altanaeva from Kazakhstan. We would like just to speak up about one issue. digital education population as and beneficiaries of the projects implemented and programs implemented. And another proposal is more active or intensified involvement of private sector for implementation of tasks. If Nurlan just has more proposals, I would send them to you, Aida. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, distinguished representative of Kyrgyzstan. I would like to give the floor to distinguished representative of Turkmenistan. Do we have Turkmenistan here with us? Yes, please. Mr. Tajiv, or who represents Turkmenistan, who would like to speak from Turkmenistan side?
Uzbekistan, Alijan Aliyev.
Okay, please, the floor is yours, Mr. Ali.
Slides, yeah. 1 minute, please.
We can hear you. So just release your microphone and camera. You can just turn on the mic, just push the mic button because so we cannot hear you so far.
Hear you, Mr. Aliyev.
Господин Алиев, пожалуйста, микрофон нажмите.
Mr. Aliyev, can you please turn on your mic? So we've got your slides. Yes, half a minute, please. Just half a minute. Mr. Aliyev, so we've got your presentation. We cannot hear you. We can discuss, get back to it later. So let's discuss the next, or let's invite the next speaker, Nurlan Mamyrov. You have to release your mic. Yeah, you can hear, we can, yeah, you can see you. Half a minute. So we cannot hear you. Please just turn on the mic, please. Turn on the mic button. Turn on the mic button, please. Red button. We cannot hear you. Once again. Yes, I'm just, yeah, now it's okay. We can hear you. Yes, please, the floor is yours. Great. First of all, I would like to thank for this great event that you you're conducting in the new format. And in order to be brief, I would like to say or to emphasize two important things. First, in addition to what our colleagues from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so when they were talking about the education of final and beneficiaries and the involvement of private sector, an important issue, in my opinion, is that we would need to somehow expand the scope of activities or scope of innovations application and technology application, information and communication technologies for most important sectors, in most important sectors. Particularly, I would like to just underline the importance of environmental protection sector, which is not today covered by our innovations. So this is the first thing. And second, I would like to emphasize or maybe support what was just mentioned by Miriam in relation to the rural population, because the majority of the Kyrgyzstan population lives or resides in rural areas. I'm sure that rural population is eager and it can accept all the new technologies, but regrettably,
I know that agricultural or rural population are ready. I know. I know that the agricultural population are ready for information technologies, but we need to engage them more broadly. And transboundary cooperation is another important issue. We need to attract rather the international donors such as the UNODP in order to have some specific results. Thank you, Mr. Mamira, for your intervention. Now I would like to ask Mr. Aliyev if he is available, Aida.
Aliyev, could you press microphone?
Yes. Hello, dear colleagues. Is it okay with video and voice?
Now it's okay. Yeah, please proceed.
Okay. Let me express my recommendations and my opinion in Russian language.
Yeah, please.
Уважаемые коллеги, несмотря
Distinguished colleagues, irrespective of positive dynamics of economic cooperation between the SPECA states, we have to admit that integration in the area of electronic trade is lagging behind. In this regard, the integration of national platforms for the e-trade between the SPECA states is extremely important, especially in the framework of the new circumstances of the pandemic, which would increase the ability of goods and services to penetrate to our countries more efficiently and would optimize financial, logistic, and transboundary activities, especially for small businesses. The promoting of this project is impossible without introduction of universal innovation tools and methods, especially in the sphere of trade. The most important there is electronic trade and transboundary trade in particular, workflow, electronic workflow, and paper exchange and cybersecurity. Under these circumstances, we would like to develop mode specific types of legislation which will be mutually recognized, and especially I'm calling up for electronic signatures mutual recognition. Secondly, provisioning of crypto security, and in particular cyber security, which is very important for electronic paperwork turnover and workflow participation of every member state and non-member state in our e-trade and our e-platforms, accreditation of legal entities on our electronic platforms irrespective of country of residence, as well as provision and mutual recognition of electronic signatures and certificates, and setting up mutual requirements for electronic certificates and signatures, as well as provisioning electronic services for effective cooperation between the participants of e-trade sessions. This would benefit to build up integration processes in the framework of the UN Special Program for Economic of Central Asia, the SPECA. And I want to thank you for your attention and thank you again for this virtual session. Thank you, Mr. Aliyev. The UN ESCAP is focusing on those issues, and in terms of it is both focusing on e-commerce and paperless trade. There we have a special agreement developed for paperless trade between the Asian Pacific countries. And I think that in the framework of SPECA, we have very good opportunities to implement all your proposals. And I thank you again. Aida, could you tell us if we have anybody else who are willing to speak, maybe from Turkmenistan?
See Selim Tajiv accept. Yeah, he wants. Can you do in 1 minute or less, maybe 30 seconds?
Please, Mr. Tajiv, вам слово.
Уважаемые коллеги, уважаемые организаторы, спасибо.
Distinguished colleagues and the organizers, I want to thank you for this wonderful event. It was very interesting for me, and I think it was a good opportunity for everyone to communicate. The information we were exposed to will be undoubtedly very useful for us in our future endeavors. I would like to underscore specifically that Turkmenistan is always ready for cooperation. We are highly interested in positive innovations and accomplishments in this area from other countries. I believe that all of us have to join our efforts in terms of achieving positive results in the area of sustainable development. I want to thank you all again and hope to see you all again in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tajeev, for your vision, for your opinion. And now I would like to sum up our deliberations. Distinguished colleagues, first of all, I want to thank you all for your interventions, for your presentations and constructive dialogue. I also want to underscore your very positive proposals and your vision. And it looks like within a very short period we managed to pick up a number of proposals on new projects and system important events. The main ideas which were voiced by the speaker nations representatives, as we see them, are the following. In the area of e-resilience, practically all the countries admitted accomplishments in their national endeavors to provide resilience for their electronic and internet systems, providing broadband internet access to their citizens, introduction of the ICT and provision in good conditions for the e-commerce. The IT is supported by the governments of the SPECA nations, and it is also very important in the framework of pandemic. I also would like to admit that the measures for the ICT application in fighting pandemic in most countries are fully compatible with the international practices, including resilience of telecommunication infrastructure. From my perspective, Kazakh experience is extremely interesting in digital information and the establishing the Astana Hub, which is the environment for digital ecosystem. Kazakhstan also importantly mentioned the development of human capital in view of digital technologies development. I also would like to admit positive Azeri experience in establishing of informational agencies and the basis of the ICT and high-tech park at the Ministry of Transport, Communication and High Technologies of this country. Afghanistan is also trying to establish its national concept for innovation technologies, which is focused on establishing conditions to support SDGs through communication and information. Kyrgyz experience is also very interesting in developing digital Kyrgyzstan 2019-2023 at the governmental level, Digital CASA project in this country, which is supported by the World Bank there, together with the other international partners for Central Asian nations, is also quite interesting for our cooperation. And the Kyrgyz experience and active usage of the PPP, the public-private partnership. Tajikistan also admitted the adoption of a number of very important papers which are focused on the implementation of a governmental digital strategy, which was adopted back in 2004. It implies ICT application in various areas. Digitalization until 2025 is also adopted in Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan also reported about state program on active involvement into the e-government, and also it admitted the importance of STIs for ICT. In the area of our further endeavors, the participants mentioned about the timeliness of the meeting of this working group and the need of exchanging experiences in this format. The key points of these meetings will be a foundation for further drafting of our joint plan of actions. I want to thank Uzbekistan for a very constructive proposal for developing model pieces of legislation which would be a universal mechanism, the universal legal framework for the SPECA nations. So in promoting of integration of the national platforms for e-commerce between the e-states, this will be a very important, especially in the framework of pandemic. Also, I would like to thank Azerbaijan for your proposal regarding digitalization in the area of transportation and organizing UN ASCAP meeting regarding digitalization of transport corridors. We also want to thank Kyrgyzstan, which mentioned the importance of cyber security in the SPECA project, and Tajikistan for its proposal to use ICT in the area of education and energy in order to combat calamities and disasters. I think all the countries admitted the need for development of human capital, digitalization of education, including rural population. All those issues are very important, which has to be taken into consideration. The above mentioned and other key important proposals within our deliberations will be represented in the steering committee for the Asia Pacific Super IT Highway, the SPECA meeting on informations, and the committee on CIC TSDI of the UN ASCAP. This will be a platform for further initiatives on information superhighway and other important projects. Once again, I would like to thank all the speakers, the country representatives for their active involvement in our current deliberations and the important contribution in ideas exchange and all the thoughts which were expressed.
Give the floor to my colleagues from ESCAP and ECE to wrap up this session. Tiziana, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nikolai. And you have provided a very comprehensive summary. So I think you have made my job of wrapping up much easier. So I am not going to be very lengthy in my wrap up. Also, we are on a Kudo platform, which for which we have to pay by the hour. So we can actually not extend our meeting beyond, we have a little bit of a grace period, but I think the next 5 to 10 minutes, we really have to close. But I think we have had a very productive discussion. I think some very good interventions were made, some excellent proposals that came through. And we have taken a due note. We will be preparing a summary of the main conclusions and recommendations. We will send this summary around to all the distinguished participants in this meeting after we receive the clearance from our chair, His Excellency Ablay Khan Osmanov. And then we will request that you kindly, review, make your revisions or your comments. We'll give you around a week space or time to do that. If we do not hear back from you within that 1 week, then we will take it as acceptable the way we have recorded the discussions. So just to thank everyone for the very fruitful discussion, for having laid out for us how wide some of the disparities are in the sub-region, but also that this offers opportunities for collaboration and also offers opportunities to build on the common challenges, such as the pandemic that we have now. We also recognize the sectors that have been mentioned, among which was the intelligent transport, the financial sector, health sector, education, electronic trade, just to mention a few. We also noted the progress that has been made on TASIM and the deployment of fiber optic cable on the seabed of the Caspian Sea. So, these are all, I think, very positive developments. And the time to bridge the digital divide is probably not going to be as good as now for a long time. So as leaders in the sector, governments, international organizations, private sector leaders, now is really the time for a big push to once and for all bring affordable digital connectivity to all. The political will is there, the great necessity is there, and we at ESCAP are looking forward to working very closely with our member states to bring broadband within reach of all, so that the innovative technology applications that we heard about will be fully realized in the service of sustainable development. So a big thank you once again to our distinguished participants, representatives from the SPECA program. I also extend my special thanks to Nikolai for your excellent moderation, for having brought us through successfully to this point. And then special thanks to the interpreters for having bridged the language divide, for having helped us to understand each other. And finally, my ESCAP colleagues, thank you for all the support from both the substantive, administrative, and technology perspective. So thank you. And I now give the floor to Chris Atty from ECE.
Thank you very much, and a big thank you to ESCAP colleagues in both Almaty and Bangkok, Nikolai, Tiziana and colleagues, and also to distinguished SPECA delegates, experts, and Kazakhstan for chairing this virtual session. You have this short PowerPoint pack. I will not go through all of them because we're short of time, and I would like to respectfully give enough time to the chairman for adoption of decisions. It just briefly presents recent and upcoming UNEC activities under the working group. So since the last session and planned for the year ahead, we've already discussed the SPECA innovation strategy. Just a couple of highlights. Last year we had a study trip to Moscow on incubators, science parks, and technology transfer. That was a pilot activity for the kind of capacity building we could have under the SPECA innovation strategy, and there was also support to implementation of the UNEC Innovation for Sustainable Development Review of Kyrgyzstan. Obviously, there's the recently adopted SPECA Innovation Strategy for Sustainable Development that was adopted at the SPECA Governing Council in November, along with renewed terms of reference. So on the meeting page on the ESCAP website, you find this PowerPoint. You will also find the work plan of the working group, which was adopted last year for a period of 2 years. It just has some minor changes to reflect the updated terms of reference and the name change of this working group. So in the interim, perhaps when we send the draft report, if anybody has any suggestions for new activities for the year ahead under the existing work plan, or suggestions for changes to the work plan, which we would adopt a new work plan at next year's session, those would be very well received. So with that, I won't continue any longer. You have the PowerPoints and all the official documents of the working group, and with a huge thank you to everybody in a very difficult situation. Good to see people well motivated, working well, and above all safe and in good health. And I will pass to the chair of this session, Kazakhstan, for the adoption of the decisions of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris, for information on the work of ECE on projects within SPECA thematic working group. And now I would like to give the floor to Kazakhstan honorable representative, who is the chair of this thematic working group. Please, I think Mr. Aspanov would like to speak.
for active involvement. And that was actually a really nice floor to get to know what is happening around us, especially when this borders is closed and the information is limited. I would like to thank the SCAPA and the EC for the work being carried out, and I look forward to see the results of the according to the methodology. And I will not dwell on the notes. I would just ask the secretariat to take notes and send it out, and we will, once it's drafted, we will be passing it to other participants. And one of the things just we wanted to mention that we have to take further actions to move forward, and one of that have to be the some working plan in between countries to strengthen our relationship, partnership, and where we could on details work out some details and the plans. And once more, thank you. And I see that the request been done by Mr. Ablay Khan himself. If it's would be possible, if I could pass the floor to him, Nikolai.
Yes, I think so. Aida,
Yeah.
could you accept, yes, accept request?
We have a very short input from Meirbek also. Is he out? Okay. Vice Minister, the floor is yours. Yes.
With my connection. Sorry. Я хотел бы поблагодарить еще раз всех своих коллег. Очень внимательно.
I would like to thank once again all our colleagues. It was quite interesting, and it was a very timely event and meeting. So for exchange of experience, I would like to thank all our colleagues from SPECA, from UNESCAP, from UNSC, and I'm really grateful, as my colleague Mr. Ilyas Ospanov mentioned. So we will just prepare everything. We'll get in touch, and thanks you very much, Secretariat and Nikolai, for this great moderation at this high level. And once again, I think that so it is necessary for us to just meet. Thank you very much for this virtual connection, so that in spite of global issues, and we can continue our cooperation, our exchange of experience. So it's quite efficient for us that this, I think that getting familiarized and acquainted with our colleagues will have an effective impact on our development and the development of digital economies in our countries. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ospanov. I think you are absolutely right, just summarizing that we need to further strengthen and develop our regional cooperation in all areas, particularly in digitalization. Aida?
I think you want to make some announcement.
Yes, please. Yeah, I have one slide to show to everybody. And this is just a follow-up on social survey. We would be extremely happy if you could fill up the survey. It has more than 50 questions, and it has 3 parts. One part is on e-resilience readiness. Can you show my slides, please? Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And second part is on innovation strategy. So there are a lot of options for you to choose from and propose your own ideas on the next steps. Please click the hyperlink or try to pick up the QR code. We also have allocated this survey on our website page. If it is difficult, I will still circulate it with our report, and we will give you maybe about a week to try to focus with the next week for about 10 to 15 minutes and pick up your right answer out of multiple answers. And the last part of the survey is evaluation of our work, our joint work, because we're developing, we're improving. So we hope that you will be able also to make assessment of the technical part of our interactions and also propose how can we improve this work further in the new normal. So thank you very much. We look forward to hear from you online, in writing. I'm sorry, Mr. Ormat Mekishev, we've heard you. We will pick up your points. We have to close the session. Thank you.